Hello, everybody, and welcome to Light News Radio, Realms of Self-Empowerment. Now in our fifth year, bringing you topics on mind, body, spirit, and the tools and techniques to awaken you to higher states. I am Dr. J, your host, and my amazing co-host is Deirdre Leighton. She is on Vancouver Island this week, looking after her dear mother. And I have a guest on with me, as you can see, and we're going to chat just a little bit later once I get through some of the basics here. So please do share and follow. And our programs are all archived on the YouTube Light News Institute fan page. So if you missed today's broadcast, you can catch up on it later. So together we bring you grounded metaphysics where the spiritual rubber hits the road, real life teachings and applications that are pertinent and relevant to you. Here you can breathe fresh air of real consciousness education while avoiding the hype and the fascination. We are all about assisting you to empower your life through understanding your true spiritual nature. So come aboard our beam of light and enlighten your load as we travel the waves of knowledge and wisdom for the next hour. I wanted to start out today with a little meditation because we have the ability to share the screen. If you would just relax. And if you're seated, that's great. If you're driving, please pull over. And so let us just start a short little meditation here. So close your eyes. If you're seated, back strong, relax, and breathe. And breath in, and breath out. And breath in, and breath out. And just feel the movement of the water, the birds in the background. Feel how good and how pleasant it is that anytime you choose, if your mind is wandering, if it's busy, if there's a lot of emotions clouding your feelings, lots going on in your life, you can always bring it back to center. The mind loves to just go where it will. It radiates thoughts in all directions. That's what the mind does. So just like the mind radiates thoughts, so does the ocean make waves, so does the sun have rays. And just like the waves upon the ocean have very little effect upon the entire mass of the ocean, so also can you sink down below the waves of thoughts, deeper into the ocean of your mind, and you can look up and you can see the thoughts going by and be totally unaffected by them. Feel that place of great peace within the center of your being, and you realize that that place of peace always exists. It is when the mind is quiet that we observe and nestle into this place of quiet, a place that is nurturing, a place that sustains us, a place that recharges and revitalizes us through the spirit. And as you breathe in and out, feel this complete tranquility. And feel that tranquility move out through your thoughts, walking along this thought and that thought, soothing your mind, calming the emotions. Feel your own spirit deep within you that motivates your body, that causes your mind to think, your blood to flow, your emotions to feel. And feel all of that spiritual power moving through you on every level. Soothing, aligning, helping you feel even more purposeful than you were before, even more inner-directed, even more calm, even more self-assured. Blessed is the path, and the path is made holy by consciously walking it every moment Every single moment is sacred. Every breath is sacred. Feel yourself composed, purposeful, tranquil. And may the principles of harmlessness and compassion be the ever constant, ever present guide of your every intention, of your every thought, and of your every action. And so it is, and so it shall be. It is done. And breath in deeply yet gently, and breath out. Another breath in deeply and gently, and breath out. Feeling centered, calm, and focused. And when you feel the moment is right, open your eyes. What a wonderful Friday it is here in San Diego. Here it is March 8th, where it probably is where you are if you're watching live now, or unless you're on the other side of the planet where it's March 9th. And it is a pre-spring day here. We've had a lot of rain, and now the wind is chill still. But you can see the flowers blooming. You can see the life budding forth. You can see the trees coming forth. And so I thought today would be a really great day to talk a little bit about spiritual philosophy. You know, it's a lot like the Four Seasons, although I have to tell you, having lived in San Diego most of my life, we basically have warmer and cooler. We don't have, like, one of the places I go very often is Calgary in Alberta, Canada. And they definitely have the Four Seasons there, where it is not just a little warmer and a little cooler. It's definitely a lot more serious. But if you think about the Four Seasons, in that, you know, there is a time in spring where everything that was ready and full of energy now comes forth and cannot be contained and blooms and comes forth and puts out the little flowers. And then summertime comes, which is a time of ripening, where the flowers give way to the fruit, and the fruit comes forth to be ripe and to be plucked. And then comes the fall, where the superfluous and the not any longer needed begins to fall away. And then comes the winter, where everything is pulled in and conserved and preserved to only that which is necessary. The leaves that have done their job have now fallen away. The fruit that was meant to be born has now been plucked. And by going within, we get ready to come to spring, to get ready to come forth again. So this is like a breath in and a breath out. And it's a lot like the spiritual philosophy of who we are. We're always breathing in and we're breathing out. The challenges we face today are because we are technically breathing out a lot more than we're breathing in. We are, as a colleague of mine says, more of a human doing than we are a human being. So we're learning to integrate more the mind, body, spirit into everything that we do, into every endeavor, every aspect of our life. And that's what I wanted to talk about today, which is called a spiritual philosophy. And so today we speak of consciousness more instead of the word spirituality, because even in academic circles, you know, the word spiritual or spirituality is often linked to religion. And of course, we're not teaching so much a religion, but a way of beingness that brings forth the true spiritual nature of what is called the whole human being. The whole human being is mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. And so that idea of what is conscious and what is spirit is a little bit about what I wanted to talk about today. And if you think about it in terms of the four seasons, if you think about it a little bit in the terms of the breath in and breath out, you see there's a kind of a cycle to our growth. You know, we grow a little and then we plateau, and then we grow a little, then we plateau. Same thing as if you go to the gym. You work out a little, then you rest. Then you work out a little, then you rest. And this is important because if we are the human doing, it seems like we always have to be doing something, or because so much of the world puts value on what you do, on how much you earn, on where you go, on what you look like, that it's easy to forget how we nurture ourselves. And I'm not standing on a soapbox telling you something that I don't have to do just as much as you do. So I do have one person on. This is Lori. So Lori, is it okay if I bring you on for a second here? Okay. All right, Lori, you're live. Where are you zooming in from?
Deirdre.
Deirdre is
Yes.
about an hour's drive north of Calgary in Alberta, Canada.
Actually, it's only about 10 minutes.
Deirdre is about a 10-minute drive north of Calgary. I must be thinking of Red Deer.
Yeah.
So how are you, Lori?
I'm not too bad.
Good.
Weather's warm. Almost quit snowing.
Oh, you see, just as I was saying, just before the radio program, I went out for a little over a mile walk, and the wind was brisk. But if you tell a Canadian that, oh yeah, it was about 60 degrees outside, which is like 15 Celsius, Canadian person will look at you like, and you think that's cold, do you?
Yeah.
Okay. So in order to prevent some feedback, I'm going to ask you to mute your mic when I'm talking, Lori, because otherwise I'm hearing myself through your speakers. That's much better. Okay. So when I ask you a question, just go ahead and unmute your mic for that moment. And so let me start off by asking you, do you have any questions before I really get into our topic today?
Too many for the time you've got today.
Oh, well, start with the first one. Maybe we'll just make it a dialogue about spirituality and conscious philosophy.
I understand the difference in spirituality as opposed to Christianity or however you want to say it. But sometimes it intermingles for me.
Mm-hmm. There was a wonderful saint by the name of Vivekananda. And he said, if you are a Methodist, I'm here to make you a better Methodist. If you're a Presbyterian, I'm here to make you a better Presbyterian, and on he went. And so spirituality does not interfere with religion whatsoever. You know, religion is a codified set of tenets or beliefs that a person adopts in order to get closer and closer to the realization of the Creator. You know, in the West, we use the word God or divine source, you know, but in the East, God is not personified. God is not a being that has a unique identity. In the East, we would say the ineffable or the all or the emptiness. So spirituality is more related to an inner understanding through your own higher sense perceptions of what is your relationship to the divine. And ultimately, according to the spiritual teachers, you come to the place where you realize that all is divinity. You're God, I'm God, everything is oneness. And this is where we have a lot of problems, as you'll hear me say from time to time, in that how can you live in oneness with no separation, and yet here you are on one side of the screen and here I am on one side of the screen? How can this be possible? So this is a problem, and it's a perennial problem that we face. My main teacher, Dr. Hiroshi Motoyama, was a realized yogi, and his favorite thing to do was scientific research. He wanted to scientifically verify the existence of the subtle energy body, you know, that we have a uniqueness, but also that's beyond space and time. And he has done so. And so now in science, we know that there are chakras, we know there are meridians, we know that there's a biofield that can be accessed, engaged. And yet, you know, none of that is going to be the same experience that a single person can have that goes into those inner realms or higher dimensions, if you like, intimately. And that's what the spirituality is all about. So if you are a Christian, like one woman came to me after a lecture a couple of weeks ago, and she says, well, does what you teach about the chakras have anything to do with Christianity? And I said, well, if you apply the teachings that are related to awakening your higher sense perceptions, you only become a better Christian. It's like the Christian monasts, the ones who lived in monasteries, who prayed and meditated day in and day out. Well, they were still Christians, but even more deeply so, because they had a deeper level of awareness that is beyond a physical, intellectual knowing. Now, Lori, you've been to a flower reading, right? And so you know very well that when I'm doing a flower reading, I have no idea who it is I'm reading for. So we might have 10 people in a room, and each person brings a flower, and they put the flower on the table. And then I pick up one flower, close my eyes, having no idea who I'm going to read for. And then I read about that person's life without identifying them, because I don't know. But the point being is that through faith, we access much deeper parts of our being that are not related only to academic or intellectual knowledge, that they're related to higher sense perceptions. So the reason for even doing flower readings is that by putting myself at risk, being in faith through the anonymity of a flower reading, it helps the people who come to the flower reading say, well, if I trust my feelings, if I'm living in faith, then I awaken myself to higher aspects of awareness that are beyond space and time. But most importantly, it helps me to overcome the illusions that cause me fear, the illusions that cause me limiting belief systems, the illusions that cause me suffering. And what most people don't realize is that we are always creating the circumstances for what my teacher called emancipation, to liberate yourself from the illusion of separation. So in a nutshell, the spirituality of every human being is to go beyond the human doing, to have an integral way of living life, mind, body, spirit, so that they overcome the illusion of feeling separate from all things, when the opposite is true. We are connected to all things, and science has been proving this left and right. But again, science can tell you a lot about an orange, but it can't tell you what it tastes like until you actually have the experience yourself. So one can become part of a great religion and yet still not be spiritually awakened, because if you only follow a set of beliefs, but still don't do enough inner work, you're not as, in my opinion, you're not as realized as you could be. Because every religion has one purpose, right? To do what? To awaken you to the existence of the divinity, right? And what's the foundation of divinity? Love. The most pervasive quality that we know is love. The foundation of all things, love. So does that mean someone who is awakened spiritually is better than someone who is not awakened? No. There was a wonderful saint that I quote often, so please forgive me if you watched many of my shows, because sometimes I'll bring things up more than once. There was a wonderful saint by the name of Paramahansa Yogananda who passed in 1952. And he said, one cannot be any closer to God than you already are. However, you can reveal that closeness to yourself. And that's what we're doing in this age. And I'm so glad to have you on, Lori, so that we can have a dialogue. Does that help to answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. And as I said before, if you enjoy our programs, please do let people know about us. I will be posting this on Facebook after today. So, please do share and follow. It is how, in social media networking, it is how we become more popular, of course. But, if you find that these programs have value to you, then please do share them with your friends. One of the things I've been emphasizing lately, as Lori probably knows, is the flower readings, but also private sessions. I have to tell you, there was a lovely woman who I worked with over the computer, like so many of us do nowadays. We don't give it a second thought. And she lives in Australia, but was in Rishikesh, India, not Indiana, India, a couple months ago. And she was in a bookstore, and one of my books fell into her lap. No mistake, right? And so she bought the book, read it cover to cover, then went back to her home in Australia and then bought my other book, I Can Relate, read that cover to cover, and then we set up a session. And so I very much enjoy doing the spiritual counseling sessions because I feel it really helps the individual to access much deeper parts of their spiritual nature and to bring them forward to their conscious awareness. And so I've been doing spiritual counseling for over 30 years now and have clients on almost every continent. And of course, flower readings too. The flower readings I've done in Canada, US, Mexico. I've been in Japan several times, Germany, Switzerland. So this work that I do is demonstrative. It's not just me on YouTube talking to you as a talking head. Part of what I do is I get out there and I do the flower readings and I do the private sessions because to walk your talk is one of the best ways to help other people to walk their talk. It's like Gandhi said, be the change you seek in the world. Don't become the change. Be the change that you seek in the world. So if I'm going to adopt the position of chatting to you about spirituality, consciousness, mind, body, spirit, and if I walk my talk, then you see that there's an authenticity there. So the idea is, in order to serve you, I have to be willing to be in absolute faith and absolute trust, or to be in faith to awaken my own spiritual nature, so that by doing so, maybe when I speak to you, you say, oh, wow, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Maybe I can too. What do you think about that, Lori?
I think you're correct. Well, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here. But
good.
Yeah, there's your flower readings are like right on. With mine, for example, you did the one of the comments you made, "The Force is with you." Well, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so that just really brought it out. But yeah, I need more work, but I'm getting there with the spirituality and learning more and being able to see more, shall we say.
Mm-hmm. And, that's very telling, because as a person does this work, you do see more.
I just
muted your mic.
Yeah. One more. I gotta find you again. There you are. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I know that I'm starting to see things, but I'm not there yet. I know I got to meditate more and whatnot. But I think I can do it. Well, I know I can do it. I just got to figure out.
And a little at a time, right? It's really no different than going to the gym. You work out in a safe way, what my teacher calls the safety way. And you do a little at a time, and then you rest. And you do a little at a time, you rest. So what I would say to your comment about getting there is to bless every moment as sacred. To let go of, well, I'm getting there, but if you already live in a oneness, there's no place to go. So there's an acknowledgement or an acceptance that goes on that says, where I am right now is in the right place, at the right time, doing the right thing. Most of us are trained not to acknowledge that. Most of us are trained to be human doings, like I'm getting there, or I'll be happy when this happens. And I used to say, we'll be happy now. And you bring up a really good point, because, Lori, before 2012, which was predicted by more cultures than just the Mayans, right? Starting around 1992, I started to lecture about 2012. So I had about, 1992, 2002, 2012, had about 20 years to lecture about 2012, where I would say, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, right? I even had astronomy software and PowerPoints to show how the galactic center would rise over Chichen Itza, on December 21st, 2012, all of that. But one of the things I used to stress was, are you waiting until 2012 to be awakened? Why not awaken now? So if you agree that we live in a oneness, if you agree that we live in oneness, that everything is God, everything is the all, then that means every moment contains a drop of total consciousness. Every moment is sacred. And so it's good for us to get out of this idea that I'll be happy when, or just a little further. Yes, that's good. That's good. Just acknowledge that in every moment you can be happy. Now, I understand we can have problems in the body. My teacher, when he got to be in his 80s, he would lecture to us, and he kind of went through a list of the things that was going on in his body, including surgeries, and in his accent, he said, well, I've had this and this and this. And he says, by this time, this body is broken, but no problem. But I understood what he meant. It's like sometimes we have problems physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, right? However, we can choose our reaction to those challenges. And once again, I really want to emphasize to our dear viewers that I'm not telling you anything that I don't have to apply myself. It doesn't exclude people who put on these programs from the same rules of how we awaken ourselves, how we emancipate ourselves, the wonderful way that we can accept what the Buddhists call the sweetness. The sweetness means the perfection that exists in all things. So it could be, 6 months from now, this recording has been sitting on YouTube quietly waiting for someone to click on it. And they go, oh, spiritual philosophy. But it could be that person months ago had this desire in their heart to learn what this would happen. And they said, well, someday I'm going to find something that really clicks for me. And that may be true. And yet, even that person who 6 months from now watches this video, at some point they could have said, yes, that video or that lesson may come, but right now I'm choosing to be centered, focused, and grounded. Centered, focused, and grounded. And when I was thinking about today's show, Lori, I was thinking, okay, well, why don't we start out with a meditation? Guided imagery meditation is something I've been doing for, at least since 1992, which is quite a while to do anything. But I thought it was a good way for us to get in that zone, that spiritual zone. Did you have another question?
Not at this time.
Okay.
I probably time I see you.
Okay. Yeah, I have shot enough shows to realize, how to set up the camera and to make sure that I'm centered and I'm not, doing this show from over here or like this. And my dear mother, my mother is such a ball of fire, 94 pounds of fury and 101 years old. And when she's talking to us on FaceTime, like when I have her talking to the grandkids, you know how on FaceTime you have your phone, right? But you have to hold the camera in a certain way. So she holds it like this. So this is all the kids see. They only see like this much of grandma because of the technology challenge, right? So we learn after a while. My grandkids are raised in the age of the iPad. The iPad only came out in February of 2009, right? And who knows what their children will be using when they're old enough, when they're teenagers, right? Let's say 25 years pass, right? And the young people of 25 years are using holograms. And the children of today are now in their 40s saying, well, I remember for me, it was the iPad and FaceTime, and that's what we had to use. So I'm struggling with this hologram thing. And what happens if another 30 years passes and then beyond holograms, it's something else and another 30 years passes? So what is it about consciousness that helps a person to feel current? And yet, if you really are a spirit who also has a physical body, is not the spirit beyond space and time? This is the great puzzle. Certainly you've heard of mediums who contact people who've passed away, right? Uncle George, Aunt Mabel. And these are people who have passed into the astral dimension, who are in spirit. But the astral dimension has no space or time. And yet, so how can a person exist in a dimension that doesn't measure space or time? So as we contemplate the era, here we are, this is March 8, 2019. What level of consciousness are we able to reveal? What if this was 200 years ago? A beautiful spring day on a little grassy hill with a nice warm breeze, and you and I are just sitting around 200 years ago, no cell phones, no iPads, no internet, no satellites, no rockets, no skyscrapers, just us, maybe the horses sitting over there. And I'm talking to you about consciousness. And I say, well, you know, there's levels of consciousness beyond what you think. What would you have looked at me and been thinking then if I said that to you? So here we are today, fast forward 200 years, here we are, March 8th, 2019. I say, well, you know, there's levels of consciousness beyond what you know here. Fast forward, now it's March 8th, 2219, 2219. What will we be talking about then? So we incarnate in different eras. Incarnation is real. Last quarter at the California Institute for Human Science, where I'm lead faculty, and I am the chair of the board of directors there and happy to do it. But I was teaching past lives, karma, and reincarnation. And a lot of the individuals who are therapists and who do what I do spiritually will tend to come to an average that there's about 66 years in what they call intermission, which is like between lifetimes, which is a very hairy idea, because if you live in a dimension beyond space and time, how would you measure 66 years? And yet, every era in which we incarnate is different. So let's say Lori here, our dear Lori, let's say she incarnated 200 years ago in England. Was that the same England as today? If you walk the streets today of London versus 200 years ago, would it be the same 200 years from now? So what changes? Every lifetime represents an opportunity for inner growth. Sometimes the tools change, the scenery changes, but the spirit, as Yogananda said, is immortal. The body is mortal, your body comes and goes, but the spirit is beyond that. So what is a spiritual philosophy if you start inserting segments of time, 1819 or 1919 or 2019 or 2219? I used to take people to the land of the Maya every year since 2005. I think I've been to Central America, Guatemala, Honduras, Costa Rica, probably more than 17 times now, and taking people on spiritual journeys. And I was fascinated with the Mayan culture because their culture had a calendrical system that spoke of when certain consciousness would show up in time. And they pointed towards 2012 as a major shift in consciousness. And so a lot of people, when you try to conceptualize what consciousness is, let me give you an idea about conceptualizing. Let's say you are 20 years old and someone says to you, well, Lori, do you know what it was like to be 5? And you think back and you go, yeah, when I was 5, I lived here and my mom and dad were this, and I had this sister, this brother, no problem. But when you're 5 and someone says to you, what's it like to be 20? And your answer is, oh, well, they're very big and they're very old. Because to you, 20 is positively ancient because your frame of reference is only what you know at 5. So when a spiritual teacher says, have faith, awaken the chakras, what they're saying is you are expanding your experience beyond just intellectual knowing. Why? You come to a realization through awareness beyond space and time in the truth of your nature. Why? Because what would happen if you went through one entire day, 24 hours, without a single doubt? without one single shred of fear, without one single little trigger of trepidation, what would that be like?
Totally off.
It'd be awesome, right? It'd be awesome. So this is what the spiritual teachers are attempting to tell us, that there is an impermanence to all things. You see all those books behind me? The rattles, and that is an image of, I forget, it's when I try to remember. These are the one holding the ear of corn, the Mayan corn. I want to say Junkash, but I think I'm wrong. But anyway, he's actually holding the pineal gland. And all of these things behind us, the rattles and the books and the images, only going to last so long. They're all going to return to what they came from, atoms. And what are atoms? Vibrations. There's no solid atoms. There's no solidity anywhere. So it doesn't mean that we get all absorbed in fascination, like, oh my God, yeah, I want to become enlightened so that I can realize that I'm everything and nothing. No. There's an exuberance that is very liberating when you realize that your fears are based on illusion. But sometimes the fears are so compelling and we buy into them because we don't have any evidence to the contrary. Well, that's why spiritual teachers are asking you, pray, meditate, go within, pick up a yoga practice. It's why there is emphasis on what we call integral education. You'll see this a lot today, integral education. And one of the main individuals that started this term integral was in the field of yoga. His name was Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo wrote a huge book called The Divine Life. It's about 1,100 pages. In fact, this quarter at CIHS, by the way, their website is cihs.edu, California Institute for Human Science, cihs.edu. This quarter, I'm teaching a course called Psychology of the Chakras, but next quarter, starting April 2nd, I think it is, or April 4th, I'm teaching a course called Toward a Superconsciousness, where we're going to explore academically some of the teachings about integral yoga, but not necessarily from a yoga posture environment, but from a philosophy of what integral means. Dr. Motoyama, who founded the California Institute for Human Science, was following Sri Aurobindo's teachings in this yoga philosophy of the mind, body, spirit, and the different yoga bodies. You know, you guys who came to flower readings, like my dear Lori here, have heard of the physical, astral, and causal dimensions. Those are the three yoga bodies. But integral yoga, or the integral work that we have going on today, like CIHS, is very much leading the way in integral studies, which means mind, body, spirit. CIHS is an institute, graduate school, and research center that is founded in mind, body, spirit. So we are emphasizing the scientific research and the philosophies into what is the spirituality of the whole human being. So you're going to see whatever field you're in, whether it's business, government, academia, science, you're going to see much more emphasis on the integration of mind, body, and spirit. And this, again, this is one of the reasons why you see me doing all these flower readings and private counseling sessions, is because by putting yourself in a position of faith and trust, you begin to awaken these higher sense perceptions within yourself. Now, how many of us are really willing to trust what we feel? It's not the easiest thing to do because we don't want to be wrong. We don't want to put ourselves at risk. One of the problems with trusting what you feel is it's not always a straight line. It's not always practical. It's not always linear. But a lot of times doing the right thing is not always the logical thing. And that's hard for us because it's very normal for you and I to want guarantees. It's very normal for you and I to want things to work out in a certain way. Don't you agree, Lori?
Yes, I do.
Does that bring up any questions so far?
Nope, you're explaining it so that I understand it. Thank you.
Oh, of course, of course. By the way, my website is lightnews.org. You know, we're getting so far along in internet, we don't have to say www. It's lightnews.org, lightnews.org. And there's a whole raft of things on there for you to enjoy, including blogs and access to past Light News radio shows and Dr. J's Cosmic Circle and all kinds of new video endeavors that we're doing and webinars and all kinds of cool stuff. So, do the yoga philosophies influence the integral teachings of today? Absolutely. Will I be introducing it in this course that I'm teaching at CIHS next quarter? Yes. And by the way, any one of you can take a course at CIHS simply by auditing the course. You do not have to be enrolled in the school to take a course there or to even research. So that's cihs.edu. The CEO there is a wonderful person by the name of Hope Yamansky, and the executive dean is Thomas Brophy. So we meet and chat quite a bit. We have a lot of meetings that we do because we are working towards a successful accreditation by the Western Association of Schools and Colleges. So what about a practice of integration? What would a practice be? Well, let's look at those words. Mind, what you think. Body, your physical being, and spirit. Well, what is spirit? Spirit is the essence that is you and I on a higher level, not limited to space or time. So what unifies the spirit and the mind body is you, your willpower. Now, let me explain something. I've explained this before, but because this is about spiritual philosophy, this may be really helpful because most people who watch this broadcast are probably in the West or Western trained. Western trained means we are empirical, reductionistic, dualistic. We think of you and me, or our science empirical, that I'm here and what I study is there and it's not separate. So in the West, we use words like connect. I am connecting to spirit. I am connecting to God. I am connecting. The word connection implies two or more things, right? To connect means to join two or more things together, right? Which means they're separate. Even the word unity means two or more things, which implies separation, which implies, because we believe everything is separate from everything else, that there is no oneness. So we're clumsy with our words. But we use these words because it is our philosophy. In the West, our philosophical state of being is basically dualistic. I'm here, Lori's there. In the East, we use the words merge. So in the West, we might say, I'm connecting with God. But in the East, we might say, I'm merging with God. It means I'm already there. I'm just merging more and more. So if I am a Christian in the West, and I come to another Christian and I said, I just realized I am God. Well, I might meet with some resistance because it's not really held as that is the truth, because the Christianity and the other Semitic religions like Islam and Judaism have personified God as a being, or at least I should say Christianity and Judaism. But in the East, God is seen as the all, the emptiness, the ineffable. There is no separation. So if I'm in the East, if I'm in India and I tell someone, I just realized, Lori, I'm God, and someone says, yes, you get it. Yes, you understand. You are. So, we all have a tendency to defend our beliefs because we all desire to have a belief that is rock solid. That is the truth within ourselves. So my belief, and I'm not asking you to follow my belief, I'm just giving you what I feel, is that our spirit is so eloquent. Our spiritual being is so sublime that we're always creating the means to emancipate us from illusion, whether it's 1819, 1919, 2019, 2219, doesn't matter what era you live in. Why wait to become enlightened? And yet every moment is possible to be enlightened. And there's humor. Oh, you can find lots of humor. I love Paramahansa Yogananda because he was such a no-nonsense guru. You really should look him up. He wrote a lot of cool books like Autobiography of a Yogi, which yogis don't write autobiographies unless they're told to by their mentor, Sri Yukteswar. But I forget what I was going to say. Lori, what was I talking about? I have so many sayings by Yogananda. You remember?
You're talking about oneness and joining me.
I'm so sorry, folks. I promise it's not a senior moment. But he had so many cool sayings, like the one I told you earlier, one cannot be any closer to God than you already are. But you can reveal it. And one of the things he did say is that God loves to have his skirt tugged on by us, meaning there's nothing wrong with being eager, enthusiastic. And now I remember the quote too. One day, one of his devotees walked up to him and he said, Swamiji, is it possible that I could be enlightened just by claiming it out loud, just by saying it? And Paramahansa Yogananda said, why, yes, absolutely. It is possible. You can be enlightened in the moment just by claiming it. And so, of course, the devotee said, well, why doesn't it happen? And Swamiji says, well, you don't fully believe it yet. I think this is why we do mantras. Lori, do you know what a mantra is?
I've heard it, but I can't remember.
A mantra is a phrase that you either sing or say repeatedly, like Om Mani Padme, Om Mani Padme, Om Mani Padme, Om Mani Padme, Om. That is a mantra, which most of us have probably heard in one form or another. And it's interesting because the Sanskrit word mantra actually means mind tool. My point, we say it over and over again to cohere the mind to a certain state because we tend to forget so easily. Like if we say, I emancipate myself, I'm one with God. We only say it once. Maybe we don't totally believe it yet. And so when we utter mantras, I am the jewel within, God is within me. I am a part of all things. And there's many, many forms of mantras. There's mantras for the mouth that you sing so that you hear it with your ears. There's yantras with a Y, yantra. A yantra is a visual representation of a mantra. If you look on the back of my books and my materials, you'll see an image called the Sri yantra. That's the same thing for your eyes. So you would stare at it, right? So it's a visual representation of something you're looking at over time. The one oral, A-U-R-A-L, for the ears, or the mantra, mind tool, is for the ears. Om Mani Padme, Om Mani Padme, Om. But the reason is we don't fully believe it. So that's why we call it a spiritual practice. A spiritual practice. We continue to put ourselves in a position of vulnerability to our own spiritual nature, to reveal to ourselves something that we already possess. I know that sounds very weird, right? Especially if you're hearing this for the first time. What do you mean this is something I already possess? Well, if you take the steps backward and you say, well, we come from oneness, we are spirits beyond space and time, and have a physical body that has many lifetimes. You come back as male, female, father, mother, son, daughter, but the spirit remains. As we go through our spiritual practice, we evolve ourselves to a higher state of realization. And that is where the work comes in. I think it was the Buddha who said that we are very much like the flames on a candle. The flame burns the candle down and then goes to another candle, and that burns down, then goes to another candle, and that burns down, and so on and so on. But the flame is always existing. The candle is the body, and the body burns down, and the body, this body's broken, but no problem. But then the spirit goes on. And that's where our work is to continuously stay in that focus, that mantra or yantra. There's even a tantra. A tantra means the physical form. Most people think that's about sex, but it's much more than that. But the tantra is more of the physical embodiment. So as we apply this work, our own integration of body, mind, spirit becomes much more sublime. And so we can let go of saying, well, I hope I'm getting there. and saying instead, I'm there, but I'm peeling the onion. I'm there, and my flower is continuously blooming, but I'm always there. What do you think about that, Lori?
I'm not quite sure yet. Let's see if I can figure it out.
Well, I think that's wonderful. But that's another reason why we have Light News Radio. My dear assistant, Deirdre, and I have been doing Light News Radio. This June will be 5 years. And we switched over to this video format because this way you get to see and hear us, and these are all archived for you. And then, this way, not everybody can listen at 3 p.m. Pacific time on a Friday afternoon, but maybe they can on a Saturday. And I'm sure there's ways to download these programs so a person could watch them anytime they want. So you, Lori, have been immortalized on YouTube. And they've heard your marvelous comments and questions. So how about it, Lori? Do you have anything to offer to our listeners, our viewers?
It's a good thing I haven't really said everything, because that could be bad.
Yeah, there's the immortalization of whatever you say.
Exactly. And my mother's watching from the other side.
Well, there you go. She's, okay, watch what you say.
Yes. There's a lot to think about with what you said.
Yes.
I've believed that for a while. I've been to Chichen Itza, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And just the feeling there you get is so overwhelming, kind of.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I'm figuring that's the way it's going to feel sooner or later for everybody.
Mm-hmm. That's an excellent observation. Sooner or later for everybody. I also think it was the Buddha who said, some people take the short and arduous trip up the side of the mountain because they want to get there right away, and other people take the long and winding road, but everybody makes it to the top of the mountain. I'm so glad you went to see Chichen Itza. It's definitely a must-do for anybody in this lifetime, especially, if you feel drawn to go. I know 2005 was my first journey there, and I just immediately fell in love with it. I think I was in love with it before because I started studying 3 years at least before I ever took my first trip. Started studying the Mayan culture. Yeah. So I also wanted to mention a couple of housekeeping things. I'm starting a new group of healers tomorrow, March 9th in San Diego. And you can find out about that on my website, lightnews.org, or you can email me at info@lightnews.org. And integrative chakra therapy is something I've been teaching for 20 years with over 500 students and graduates in the US and Canada. And I start new groups twice a year in Calgary, Canada, and also here in San Diego. Actually, I will be teaching at the Institute tomorrow. And tomorrow is an introductory weekend. So please look it up if you'd like. Just go ahead and get a hold of us and let us know. And we'd be happy to have you join us for this introductory weekend to a fascinating course in energy medicine and energy psychology. And you get all the basics this weekend, plus syllabus and work, and you're up and working the very first day. What else is going on? Well, I'm in San Diego doing workshops and private sessions here, both in person and remotely. And I'll be coming to Calgary on March 21st through the 26th. I have a group there that'll be studying, but we also have workshops, and I'll be available for people in Alberta who want to come see me in person. Also, we have something new, which is called Dr. J's Cosmic Circle. It's a membership program where for very little money, you can get 2 of my books, a CD, 5 meditations. I feel like a salesman, right? And for that, you also get discounts to future workshops. And it's a membership program, so you get access to certain parts of my work that are special and unique to you. And there's also another program coming up a six module online program called Awakening the Master Within. So these are 6 2-hour programs and a bonus 7th program to tie it all together, because in this program we have 2 hours per module where I will be teaching you how to access the Master Within, plus questions and answers, plus homework, plus a workbook. So you're going to get the full thing here. And I will be advertising when this is going to happen. It's an online course, so you can take it from anywhere that you live. There'll be 6 online modules with homework and with a workbook for each module, and plenty of time for question and answers in each module. And we'll be online on Zoom just like this, so we can have lots of people online. And then there'll be a 7th module that's a bonus module that we will be tying it all together to go through all the homework and go through all the assignments and so forth. So we got a lot going on here. We got a lot on the go, as Deirdre would say, with Light News Radio. And I think it's getting to be about that time that we wrap it up here pretty soon. So, Lori, do you have any other comments, anything you'd like to say to me or to our viewers?
Thank you for all you're doing for everybody, myself included, actually, too. We'll see you when you come to town.
There you go. Thank you very much. Yes, and I hope to do that soon. Like I said, we've got a lot on the go. Let me just check my notes here to make sure, because usually Deirdre is my super efficient, make sure I've said everything type person. Oh, we have free energy work every second and fourth Monday at Families Matter in Northeast Calgary, and that's for the public. It's free. And I'm doing free energy work here in San Diego, and I'm changing locations. So I'm going to start having my free energy work for the public in Encinitas, which is northern San Diego County, just 20 miles north of downtown San Diego, instead of La Mesa, simply because now I'm living in North County, so it's a lot easier for me to get to where we will have it. It'll be held at CIHS, California Institute for Human Science. And you can just check our website, because as I said at the beginning of the program, we have a bunch of stuff on the website, whether it's videos or blogs or calendrical type items with my workshops, books, CDs. It's a huge website. There's lots of stuff there for you to explore and have fun with, access different meditations. And if you have any questions, if you have any comments, please let us know, lightnews.org, or email info@lightnews.org. If you have a group of people who would like to do an online flower reading, we do flower readings now remotely, where we just set up a webcam and you can have your group wherever you are on the planet, or if you're off planet, that's okay too. And we just point the webcam at your flowers and we show you how to do it. And we have a delightful evening of information, healing, and it's all recorded for you. It's all recorded for you. So if you have any interest in flower readings, both in person or online, if you have an interest in a private session, let me know. I'm Dr. J, your host, and my amazing co-host is Deirdre Leighton. And so now that we get to the end of the program, I want to thank you for listening to Light News Radio, Realms of Self-Empowerment. And one of the main reasons is because people like myself and Deirdre, we devote our lives to service work to humanity. So my hope is that in some way, if you're watching this video, that you are a seeker who is only working to empower yourself. Our work, whether it's me, Deirdre, or any other light worker, is to help you realize the truth of your being, to empower yourself, to actualize yourself, to activate yourself as unique and powerful in self-realization. That's our job. And I hope in some way that we've helped you do that. So thank you very much for watching Light News Radio, Realms of Self-Empowerment. I'm Dr. J, and my host, who will come on at some point, is Deirdre Leighton. And as always, may the principles of harmlessness and compassion be the ever-present, ever-constant guide of your every intention, of your every thought, of your every action. And so it is, and so it shall be. It is done. Stay attuned, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you.